May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. A brief memory. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today's brief memory comes from David Cohn. After a talk at Tassajara, Suzuki Roshi did his bows and walked out to the entry. Alan Watts, somewhat inebriated, was waiting to pay his respects. Suzuki Roshi saw him and immediately smiled and bowed. He then asked Alan to come to his cabin for tea, but then very quickly he changed it. He said, "No, I'll come to your cabin." I understood his lightning-like social reflex to reflect my own intuition that it could be awkward to have an inebriated Alan Watts in his cabin, mainly because he may stay much longer than would be pleasant and appropriate. His social skill and kindness in creating this harmonious situation that allowed him to pay his deep respects to Alan Watts and Watts' contribution to Zen in America. It was inspiring. So that's a unique take on Alan Watts' visit to Tassajara, which happened in August of 1971, the last month that Suzuki was there too. He died the following December. Yeah, I can see that, him saying, "Oh, come to my cabin and have tea." So he's invited him to his cabin, and then he changes that to going to Watts's place, and that was the right call there. Watts had just started drinking again. I think he got nervous before he came in or something. He'd been on the wagon for a while. But anyway, so yeah. And so Suzuki visited Watts with, Watts was with his wife, Jano. And I tell about it in Crooked Cucumber. Nils home was Suzuki's Jisha. And Nils, Dane, very talkative and everything. Alan was going on and Suzuki was being quiet. And Nils sensed a certain amount of somebody needed to engage with Alan. So Nils talked with Alan. And Suzuki just sat there. And the next day, and Alan was getting up periodically and saying, "Oh, I must have some more of your marvelous spring water." And, he'd go and then he'd come back. And the next day, Nils said to Suzuki, he said, "Oh, listen, I'm sorry. I just hogged the conversation last night. I'm sorry I spent all the time there talking to Alan Watts, and you were just sitting there." And Suzuki said, and Nils said, "I've been a very bad student, I think." Suzuki said, "No, you were a very good student. Thank you very much." He was very happy with it. And Watts was out the next day and feeling his oats in a sort of toga with a staff and talking to students and stuff. It was great to have him there. we wouldn't be there without him. Or it's hard to imagine something else. There would have had to have been somebody else do what he did. Alan Watts paved the way. He made it. He did so much, and also, he was so helpful to Suzuki when Suzuki was still there. He was helpful to us in fundraising. He had marvelous ability to just crystallize, sort of the perennial philosophy, the essence of spiritual teaching, and but we didn't appreciate him back then. We thought he was just intellectual, and that's sort of true in a way. But actually, he had a genius that's very rare. I mean, he communicated to thousands and thousands of people. I cannot tell you how many people have told me they first got interested in spiritual practice listening to Alan Watts's radio shows. He also was on TV, KQED and KPFA. I might have those wrong. KQED, yeah. And it's all over the internet now too. And anyway, I wrote a piece on him. It's on Cuke.com. If you just go to Cuke.com and write Watts, W-A-T-T-S, or Alan Watts, A-L-A-N, Watts, in the site search box, you'll see it go to a piece I wrote. It was in Shambhala Sun. But I put the unedited piece there. Anyway, okay. So this has been a Cuke Audio mini podcast. I'm D.C. Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Dogat Bandita, Filanguchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.